guys, it's Erin, and today I'm coming at you with some independent author recommendations. I don't know if any of these are actually published with like a small publishing house or if they're more like self-published. I think it's a mix. I've always been kind of hesitant to read independent authors, mostly because way back when independent publishing on Kindle first became a thing, I read a couple of books and they were not very good, and that kind of put me off. I was like, oh, this is what indie publishing is, whatever. Anyway, I was wrong, so I'm so glad. There are a lot of reasons people publish independently, whether it's because their book just isn't going to fit a traditional market, or they don't want to deal with all of the querying and stuff. They just want to publish their book and be done with it. There are so many great writers out there who are publishing like this, and how else do you find out about them except through personal recommendations? Like, you don't. So anyway, here I am to talk about them. I have 2 fantasy authors for you and 1 contemporary romance, which I know, right? What? Also, fun historical fact. For a long time, if you wanted to get published, you did it yourself. That was pretty common. In fact, like what we consider a modern publishing house, where you contract with the company to get your book published and like buy your book, didn't really happen until the 1800s. Before that, you sold your book directly to a printer, and it like, you know, it was changing in the 1700s, but still, for like a long time, everything that was published was self-published. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's actually a really old thing. Anyway, that was your random historical fact for the day. So the first books that I want to talk about are a trilogy, the Famed Trilogy by J. Alexander Wooten. This is a pen name, and in full disclosure, I know Jason. I met Jason before I read his books, and I consider him a friend. However, I am telling you about these books because I think they're fantastic, and I would think they're fantastic even if I didn't know Jason. I bought them with my own money. These are wonderful. If I had read them and didn't like them, I would just not talk about them. This is a really interesting kind of urban fantasy, sort of young adult. It's like on the border about a young girl named Petra. She's about to go off to college. She has lived this kind of interesting life. Her mother has moved them around a lot, trying to stay away from an ex. Petra is just like ready for a normal life because weird stuff happens in her life, and she doesn't want anything to do with that. She wants to go to college and have a normal life. And she goes to college, and then things aren't normal. Because Petra is the descendant of Robin Goodfellow. Yes, that Robin Goodfellow, the one that we meet in A Midsummer Night's Dream. It turns out that something like 1,000 years ago, this giant war broke fairy, which is another world, and a lot of the fairies came to Earth. And Oberon needs a descendant of Robin to swear eternal allegiance to him, and then he can go back and unbreak fairy. The only problem is Oberon is kind of a jerk, which is understating things, and Oberon is also the guy that Petra's mother has been trying to stay away from. And so now Oberon is going to go after Petra, and she has to not only stay away from Oberon, but also come to terms with the fact that fairies exist, and there's this like whole world that she didn't know about. One of the things I really like is like it takes her the whole first book to stop being like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm crazy, and I'm pretty sure you're not telling me the truth. Because like, how else would you react? It really made me think about how accepting people are of like portal fantasy kinds of stuff. Like, hello, yes, I am a mage from another world. Would you like to come back with me? Like, who does that really? Like, in real life, right? I'm gonna put the other 2 down because they're heavy. Hence the crossed arms. She's like, excuse me. So in addition to Petra kind of like realistically reacting to this whole scenario, there are so many literary references and just like quiet whispery ones. Some of them more obvious, like A Midsummer Night's Dream. Some of them really like casual. There's actually a list in the back of all of the books that are referenced in each of the books because there's so many, and it's great. It's just the way that everything was worked together into this really kind of complete and comprehensive world that makes sense, even though it's constructed of all of these pieces of things from folklore and mythology and just our cultural knowledge, like talking animals. It's great. It's so fantastic. So it makes it fun to read if you're a literary nerd, and if you're not, the references just pass you by and that's fine. The story is still really entertaining. I would highly recommend these. The first two are kind of short and then the last one's not. Also, there is a talking cat. So, what more do you want? The next fantasy, I'm kind of going in order that I read them, is Winter Hewed by E.H. Alger. This is beautiful. I actually heard about this through Jack Wooten because he read it and rated it on Goodreads. I was like, that sounds really interesting. And then my library happened to have it, which is really random. I loved it a lot and have talked about it on social media. And the author, Elizabeth, actually sent me this copy, which was so nice. I am so appreciative. She had to mail it from Australia. And also it has a unicorn. This is about a princess named Winter Hewed. She is trying to run her kingdom, but her father, the king, who is very bad at running the kingdom and keeps running after women half his age, is really sure that women don't have a place in politics. So she's doing the best she can, and she is just like the loveliest person. And she's lovely in like a realistic way, not in a like Mary Sue way, which is so hard to do, and one of my favorite things about this book. Then a dragon shows up. Problems ensue. It's a beautiful story. It's kind of slow paced. It's actually written in a like a faux old-timey language, so it sounds more like something you would read Shakespeare's day, but it's not. Like, once you've read a couple of chapters, you get used to it. It's not overwhelming, and it adds to the kind of mythic fairy tale old-timey story quality, which I really like. There are dragons and unicorns, there are lonely knights, there's true love. It's really lovely, and I highly recommend that. Then finally, we have Penny Reed. Now, so far, Winter Hewed is the only book like this that E.H. Alger has written, and the Famed Trilogy is the only thing that has been written, but Penny Reed has written a lot of things. She like churns out stories, and they're good. I don't understand. This is the third book in the Winston Brothers series, which will be completed this fall, and it happens to be the only one that I have in a hard copy. So I'm holding this one up because it is my favorite, but also like it stands in for everything that she has written because I think it's wonderful. Even if you're not usually a romance reader, I would recommend these because in addition to the romantic component, I just really have enjoyed spending time with the characters. They, in both the series and in the Knitting in the City series, they have this found family aspect that I really enjoy, and the stories in both series, actually they interact, they're in the same universe, and some of the characters appear in both of them. Both of these series have found family aspects, and also both of them build on each other and sometimes take place simultaneously. So for instance, this book, Beard Science, and the fourth book, which I can't remember the title of, take place at the same time, and so actually some of the conversations in both books are the same conversations between the two main characters, so we get like the same conversation from both people's sides in the two different books, which is really cool and it's fun to read. And then also just like characters will show up, or somebody that we've met in one book will have an important part to play in another book, stuff like that. That I think adds to the found family aspect. It's because these are series that are following either a group of friends or a set of brothers as they fall in love. I've found that with other books that do this, the other characters are just kind of in the background, and so even if you know them, like the story is very firmly on this group. And admittedly, I have not read a lot of this kind of story, so I don't. The characters from previous books continue to have active and useful lives in these books. For instance, even like in the Knitting in the City series, there's a young man named Alex, and he is a professional hacker who works for a security company, and Cletus, the main character here, is friends with Alex and asks Alex to help him out with something, just kind of like in the background. So we don't ever like see Alex in the story, and if you hadn't read the Knitting in the City series, you probably wouldn't know who he was referencing. It's just like an offhand reference, but it's there, and if you've read all of the books, then you get this just like really nice, rich picture through all of these kind of like references to everything. I'm really fascinated by the way that stories like this are put together, and the like series and how everything builds on each other, and that's I think what I really like about that. Like the romance part is fun, and I really like all of the characters, but just from like a craft perspective, these are really, really well done. Anyway, those are 3 independent novels that you should read because they're wonderful. They're well written, they're well edited, they don't contain any like obnoxious typos, they're good stories. and they deserve to be read and known about more than they are. This is really wobbly. I'm sorry if that's distracting. I would love to hear from you. Do you have any independent book recommendations? I would really like to find more. After like having such good luck with all 3 of these, like these were all 5-star reads. I need more. Where do I find them? Please tell me. If you have found any of these interesting, let me know. If you read them, I would love to hear what you think. If you like it. If you don't like it, just, we don't need to talk about that, right? Right. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.